I sent you the link, Tracy.
Okay. Mhm. Mhm. Looking at everything, come up. Let's see. Right here. Okay. Let me go make sure it's there. Okay. Yeah, good to go.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Everybody ready?
You're good to go, Jeremy.
Great, thank you. Hey, good morning, everyone. A meeting of the Louisiana State Board of Medical Examiners Occupational Therapy Advisory Committee pursuant to lawful notice is duly convened and called to order at 10:07 Friday, October 13th, 2023 via Zoom virtual video. Please know that any comments, sorry. Whoops. Oh, that's Dr. Van. Okay.
No, I just wanted to make sure you had the agenda up to you. Y'all can see it.
It just popped out my screen of my.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to mess up your computer.
Please know any comments by the public are welcome and can be emailed to publiccomment@lsbme.la.gov. Dr. Van, please confirm that you have verified the identity of all tele and video conference participants.
Yes, ma'am, we have.
Sound clear and audible to the public and those on tele and video conference.
Yes, ma'am, it is.
Thank you. All additions to the executive or public agenda must be made presently, as we will no longer make additions to the agenda after the close of the public session. Just quickly to review the mission of the OT Advisory Committee is to ultimately protect the public, that is the consumers of occupational therapy services, by regulating competent practice and upholding the standards set forth by the governing rules and regulations. Okay, I'm just going to make sure we know everyone who is present. Myself, Darby Philibert, Chair, Ingrid Frank, Vice Chair. We have Brenda Martin, Kelly Brandon. We have Caroline Murphy is out. Raylena Crooks is out. Kimberly Solari, Amy La Riviere, Glenn Wallace. We have Dr. Vincent Collada, Jacinta Duth, Olivia Pelong, Tracy Morrow, Sandra Hawkins, and did I leave anyone out?
Miss Wilton and Miss Johnson.
There we go. Thank you. Miss Patricia Wilton and Miss Johnson. Do we have any other guests this morning?
Nope. No, ma'am.
Ingrid, can you please confirm that we have a quorum?
We do have a quorum.
Great, thank you. All right, the first item on the agenda is to approve the minutes from the meeting on September 15th, 2023. Anyone can scroll down on the cloud share, look at the minutes. Someone would like to make the motion to approve the minutes as written.
Second.
Who motioned to approve?
I asked for a motion. I
Oh.
didn't.
I thought I heard someone.
I seconded it, Kelly.
I think, well,
I'll make the motion to approve the
I was
minutes.
Kelly, so
voting
you-
for first, and
Kelly-
then I heard somebody second it.
okay. So wait, Kelly is motioning to approve, and then is somebody seconding?
I'll second. This is Brenda.
Okay,
Okay,
thank
thank you.
you, Darby. I thought you said you made a motion.
Any public comments, Dr. Van?
None at this time, ma'am.
Okay, so we have a few things on the agenda. We also have an issue in executive session. So if everyone's okay with it, I would like to kind of take the order and do the executive session first to make sure that we have enough time after for leave the flexibility of time for the rules and regs. If everyone's okay with that, we can move into the executive session.
Yeah, you do need a vote though.
Do we need a motion as well?
Yeah, a motion to go into executive session.
Okay, I'll motion to go into the executive session.
This is Ingrid, I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right.
They just give them a second and they'll put us, there we go.
Everybody should have the join button at the bottom. Tracy, I'm gonna leave you outside of executive session.
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay, guys, now that we've discussed that, I'm gonna make a motion to allow the license for the applicant number, ID number 301316. Given the information that we have, to allow her to apply for a license.
No, to approve a granting of her license would be the better move.
Okay, to grant her license. Okay,
It's the recommendation of the advisory committee that this meets the necessary requirements to be granted an initial license in Louisiana. That would be perfect.
okay. I'll make a motion to recommend to the advisory committee to grant the license for applicant number 301316.
I'll second it, Amy.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Okay, and I'm gonna assume that there's no public comment.
There are no public comments, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. All righty. Okay, so the next item on the agenda is the rules and regs, and then we also have the OTAC appointments. So if everyone's okay with it, I would suggest that we do the OTAC appointments first, leaving time for the rules and regs. So Dr. Van, was told that Carolyn emailed you her thoughts. Do we want to just? Oh, I'm sorry, Kim, you have your hand up?
Can that be enlarged? It's very tiny on my screen.
Kim, if you go to view options at the top,
Mm-hmm.
click zoom ratio and then click 100% original size.
Okay.
Or you can make it even bigger. You can do 150.
Okay, great. Thank you. It makes a huge difference. Thank you.
So just to review, Ingrid sent out a great email. Thank you for doing that, Ingrid. Just kind of summarizing that we have two positions opened. Myself, which is represents pediatrics, and I'm in New Orleans, and then Brenda Martin, who has a variety of experience. She's in Mandeville and also is doing a lot of telehealth. So she's kind of in our telehealth person as well. And those are the two positions that are open. We would also like, with our new rules, to strive for at least one OT assistant on the committee. It doesn't mean that we have to if we don't feel like they're qualified, but just to consider that. So any suggestions of the best way to go through this, or?
Well, again, what we normally do is the board would like, we'll put three people's names up for each spot. And then the board will pick, but of course, if you want to give me a recommendation from the advisory committee that you would like to choose this, almost always the board will accept your recommendations. But again, they would like the alternative to three in case they don't particularly like the one that you recommend. So that's what we normally give them.
Okay.
What about if you start with us only looking at, let's kind of maybe make us, should we assume that we had enough CODA applicants to where one of them would be well qualified and we should look just amongst the CODA applicants first and choose our primary one, and then a backup to give the board?
Sure. Yeah.
That's, I would recommend that. That's how I separated out the candidates. I have like a CODA stack, I have an administrative stack, and then I have like a third recommendation stack, and who I would want to pick from each of those three.
Yeah. Okay, so let's see. I'm not sure who's in charge of the screen, but the very first one that pops up is a coda.
I do have them sort of written here. We've got 4 codas, Meredith Carrier, Megan LaBeouf, Kathleen Norcross, and Tina Schuer.
Yep.
So if everybody's already looked at all 4 ahead of time, I mean, we could just see how many people prefer each one
Yeah.
as not first choice.
Right.
Well, that,
Yeah, that
That-
works. I just have a question, Dr. Van, is this appropriate to do on a public session?
Well, all you're doing is making a recommendation and to the board to who you would, to 3 names you're submitting and who you prefer. And that's all we can do at this point in time. Miss
What
Wilton, if you, we're not
Yeah.
discussing character and competence. How do you feel about Darby's question?
Right. I mean, appointments to public office are usually public matters. And if there were anything in particular that you wanted to bring to people's attention that would negatively impact the person's nomination, then we would have had to give them notice that that was going to be discussed. But it's assumed that when someone indicates an interest to apply for a public office or a public appointment, that somebody's going to talk about them. So that's fine. Just if there were anything negative, that we would do that separately.
Okay, thank you.
I was going to say, I think to maybe Darby, your question, because like we as individuals have our preferences and those preferences need to be agreed on as a group. Maybe you want to do that on the side before the group as a whole makes the 3 recommendations. Is that what you were thinking?
Yeah, you can't do OTAC business outside of the public view unless you have a valid
Oh.
executive session exemption. So it's not unusual.
Oh.
I mean,
Okay, I'm sorry.
No, it's perfectly okay. It's perfectly okay to talk about why you think someone would be good for the job. The thing you
Okay.
would want to do is not necessarily talk about why you think someone wouldn't be good for the job in an open session, because that we should have put them on notice that would be discussed. But if you just want to say, I know this person, this practitioner, they're awesome, I think they'd be great, you can absolutely do that.
Okay.
Okay, well, I guess I can start just to get the ball rolling. I have Kathleen Norcross as my first choice for CODA appointment because of her experience in skilled nursing and home health, which we don't have really right now. And I was also impressed, by the resume and experience.
Yeah, I thought her resume, that's who I had picked for number 1 also. I was impressed with her resume the most. I thought it was put together very well. And I like that she has the most, the most years of experience also out of all 3.
All right, let's see who else.
I like Tina Schuer. I'm not sure. I thought she had a lot of experience as well. That was my number 1 pick.
Okay. Let's see, we have Brenda, who was your number 1 pick for the CODAs?
I had Kathleen also, and also looking at the fact that she had the home health, which is something that we don't currently have represented. I know it's not one of our categories specifically,
Yeah,
but
but
gives a good perspective.
Kelly?
I was actually looking at Megan.
Megan? Okay, that's your number 1.
Mhm.
And Darby?
I actually had Meredith.
We're all over the place. Is that all of us?
She was more in management, but did have a lot of clinical experience. And she was in Baton Rouge, which we didn't like. It's an area that was different. So,
And Kim, how about you,
I had chosen Megan.
Megan?
Yeah.
Okay, so we got,
She's in Lafayette, so I felt like we're coming a little bit further.
Mhm.
So,
I would say, Darby, for maybe the management thing. Are you saying that Therapy Management Corporation she's in a management position because of that? Because that's just the name of the TMC is just the name of the company that contracts with different places.
Yeah, but it also like she was responsible for like scheduling and staff stuff.
Okay.
When we had a lot of questions about like how many people are supervising and how does that work and how if they change, areas or locations. Like it's just I was trying to think of like all the questions that we had about quotas
Okay.
based on our experience that sometimes, some of us said, oh, well, I used to work in that, but we didn't have anyone like currently doing it. So that just kind of caught my attention.
Gotcha.
So the votes are that we had 3 votes for Kathleen Norcross, 2 for Megan LaBeouf, 1 for Meredith Carrier, and 1 for Tina Schuer. I don't know if we want to just go by who got the most or some other way. Or have Kathleen as our primary with Megan LaBeouf as our backup in case the board does not like something that they see with Kathleen.
Yeah, that's fine.
Does it have to be just one OTA?
No, it can
Yes,
be
the way we
three.
wrote our,
No,
we
it can
could
be,
do a third option, but the way we kind of like crafted our new rules is that one person on this OTAC would be a CODA.
I thought it was more like at least one. I thought we could have more than one.
I thought we worded it as only one.
Oh, I thought it was minimum also.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
recall at least one.
A minimum of one. Like I feel like it could be more, but we want at least one. I can look it up if we need to. I mean, I guess we need to look at it like if we don't have an OT, if another OT supersedes another OTA supersedes an OT, then we would recommend 2.
There's a couple, there's definitely
think-
a really good OT on there.
Yeah, I agree.
No.
Yeah, well, that's what my thought was. Like, there's,
And who's in management administration.
Yeah, I was just making sure that I understood it correctly.
yeah. I'm looking up the thing. So I think what we do what Ingrid said, like where we have our one recommendation, but we have, we give them 3 like he's asking, but definitely have one that we recommend.
I mean,
Okay,
is
the way that
everybody-
we have it worded in the appointment, I actually have highlighted because of stuff that we've recently learned from Patricia, that it says the advisory committee shall comprise 9 members who shall be occupational therapists. 1 should, and we shouldn't use that word now that we know that, 1 should be an occupational therapy assistant, if not, maybe an occupational therapist licensed by the board. So just saying 1 should be, we don't have at least 1, but we have 1 should be, and we have to change that wording anyway, because that's ambiguous, so. That's just how it's currently worded.
So are we okay with the fact that that Kathleen got the most votes of putting her up as for one of the 2 positions?
Yeah, I mean, I'm okay with that. I mean,
All right.
as long as everyone else is, like,
Okay, well, I guess we can go through the OT names now.
would you want to do the other 2? You have your 3? We'll have 1. that's
Well,
like-
we had Megan LaBeouf had 2 votes, so she would be our second recommendation. Meredith and Tina each have 1. So I don't know what to do about that.
Okay.
Both Meredith and Tina are from the New Orleans. No, Meredith is from Baton Rouge.
Yeah, Tina's from New Orleans.
So, I guess we could kind of look at who we want OT wise and then maybe pick our third CODA based on geography. After we sort of look at the geography of our next recommendation, of our OT recommendation.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay. All right, so the first OT is Christy Bruton.
Mhm.
Did anyone put her as their number one?
I did for administration.
Yeah, I kind of have a tie. Like I couldn't decide. I mean, I've worked with Christy before. She was on the LOTA board when I was president, and she also applied last time for OTAC. Not that that makes a difference, and like reached out and said she was really disappointed she didn't get it. But anyway, you know, she's definitely more management administration.
So Darby, that was also, she's also your number one?
I kind of had a two-way tie between her and Wendy. I was a little undecided.
All right, well, right now we've
I
got,
was stuck on those same two, Darby.
Mhm.
I mean, you know, I know them both. I know they're both great. You know, they both bring a lot of assets to anything we do. So I don't know how I'd be able to pick between the two. So I was kind of just marked them both and was like, we'll just discuss it and maybe somebody can convince me.
all right, we'll get to Deirdre Green Mondi. Did anyone choose her as their number one? Okay. Wendy Domingue.
She's in my tie.
She's
I
your
chose
tie.
her as my number one.
Okay, that was Amy.
Yes.
So her experience is school system,
Mhm.
and she's in St. Tammany or Mandeville. So she's kind of, Brenda, wouldn't you say like she would basically be taking your role pretty significantly?
Yeah, and she's got that kind of that school system experience too,
Yeah.
which that's where my recent hold is.
Yeah.
Okay, Emily Dennis.
She was my number one. She was an OTA for a number of years before she bridged to be an OT. And so she brings, you know, both aspects or perspectives to the table. She's very active advocate for OT. She wants to really get involved and also she is it's not on her resume, but she's recently taken an administrative management role. So she also has that experience. And she's from this area. I know we only have, I think, really two in North Louisiana, Carolyn and I. So I think
She's a doctor, like officially, or is she currently enrolled? Is she currently getting her doctorate? Is that how I'm to read her educational background?
no, she's not. This Emily Dennis, she got her MOT. She bridged from a CODA to an OT.
I know, but she has a doctorate of education.
Oh,
She's at Baylor in their postdoc, I think.
wait, no, she's
No, y'all are mixing her up with Sam
Yeah.
Harrison.
Oh,
No, Emily Dennis.
right, no, the
Emily
Baylor
Dennis,
one
doctor.
was not her, but Emily, yeah, she's working on that, getting her.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay, that's what.
ULM. I'm sorry. I thought
Okay.
you meant doctorate of OT.
Oh, no.
Okay, sorry about that.
No, it's okay.
Okay,
So
next.
yeah,
is-
Emily Dennis was my like third person to recommend. I guess if I was gonna do like CODA administration and then third, it was Christy was my admin recommendation, and then Emily was my third person to recommend.
Okay, let's see, next is Mary Green Keys. I have her as my number one. She is the supervisor of rehab services at the VA, which brings, I feel like, some just a different, you know, service area that we don't currently have represented. She's from New Orleans, which right now the only other New Orleanian is me. She has the people at the VA rave about her. And this, it may not matter to y'all, but she is a Black woman. And I feel like that could also be a perspective that we could use on our OTAC. So she was my number one. Anybody else? Okay. Then we have Sam Harrison.
Oh,
Does
wait,
anyone-
and she's also the one that's enrolled in the post-professional doctorate program at Baylor.
Yes,
Okay.
she is. Did anyone choose Sam Harrison as their number one?
Yeah, I kind of had an asterisk next to her. I think she would have been like the two-way tie between the other two. I really liked her as well. But she also was an OTA that is now an OT. And she's active according to NBC OT and both, and she's home health and from Natchitoches. So I mean, I
Yeah.
never had number one, but I just thought like that brought a different perspective.
I love that she included her hobbies. I was like, that is so OT. I have to say, I love that. I love that. She was like my number two, or actually Wendy was, but Sam was, yeah, in the mix for sure.
Yeah, I did.
But Darby, I don't have your number one, and I don't have number one from Brenda. We kind of need y'all. I need you to pick a lane.
If I have to pick a lane, I'll pick Wendy.
Wendy for Brenda, okay, and Darby.
I don't know.
And also Kim, I haven't heard from you.
Christy,
Yeah.
number one.
All right.
And did we get Carolyn's?
Oh yeah, what was Carolyn's? Oh my gosh, Dr. Van.
Dr. Van.
Yeah, Dr. Van, could you give us who Carolyn wanted?
And if Raylene sent hers.
I need to clip Miss Wilton. Is something sent in from a member who's not participating acceptable to be discussed? Miss Wilton, are you there?
Sorry. I accidentally muted when I thought I was unmuting. Yeah, it doesn't count as a vote, so don't cast it as a vote, but it can be information for the other members.
Okay, so you can't count it as a vote then. Okay, good enough. Let me pull it up. And it was from Carolyn, right?
Mhm.
So I guess my question is, like, anyone right now currently on the committee and like management?
No. I mean, I am because I'm the interim department head, but I don't want to stay in this position, so I still not considering myself to be.
I mean, I'm a program director, but I wouldn't consider that the same as a clinic.
Yeah, you're right.
I mean, I
It's
kind of
not the same thing anyway.
I'm
Yeah.
ready. Carolyn's recommendation are number one, Kathleen Norcross, Roscoe Coda, and Samantha Harrison.
Okay, Norcross, what was the second one?
Harrison.
Oh, just she only had Norcross and Harrison?
That's,
Samantha Harrison.
since
Yeah.
I will be unable to attend the Coda meeting, I want to send my 2 votes for OT, Kathleen Norcross Roscoe and Samantha Harrison.
Okay. Thank you. All right, well, although we can't count her as a vote, it solidifies our number one on the Coda recommendation.
Right.
And then, so she was, all right, so we're back to, Kim, you told me.
Christy,
Yes, and so we're back to Darby. Darby, I don't have your number one yet.
I guess I'm gonna go with Wendy because she's in school system.
Who? I couldn't hear you.
Wendy for school system because we don't have that represented. Once
Okay.
Brenda leaves.
All right, so we do have, that was 3 number one votes for Wendy Domingue, 2 for Christy Bruton, 1 for Emily Dennis, and 1 for Mary Green Keys. I will say that I do feel like over, just in terms of like a second place, just something to point out is that Mary Green Keys's administrative experience is directly over therapy right now, and Christie's has been for many years now actually not in the rehab realm, if that means anything.
Yeah.
When we're looking at this list of the committee and it has Michelle Allison who resigned, did someone take her place? Or like, so that's not another opening, huh?
Yeah, who took her?
Glenn took her place, right?
Glenn. Yeah. I couldn't remember who, but yeah.
Just based on the votes, it looks like a Wendy Domingue would be our number one pick. So it's our number two pick would be Christy Bruton, unless I can change anybody's mind. In terms of more current related occupational therapy administration experience. And because both Mary and Emily Dennis each have one vote each.
Yeah, I would let the two people who voted for those two people say if they have a preference between the two that got the higher votes.
Okay. So that would be Kelly.
Excuse me 1 second. The other thing to consider is that you're taking two PEDS people off. Do we have another PEDS person on? Carolyn, is she PEDS?
Kim.
I mean,
Well,
Kim.
I'm
Yeah,
paid.
I'm
Okay.
Peds.
Sorry, thank you. Thank you. 'Cause I just wanted to
We
make
do
sure we
have,
weren't looking at that.
we do
Okay.
have PEDS. So this was really more about administration, which I'm not sure Wendy is like the administration person.
She's schools, for lots of schools.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we would actually, if we chose Wendy, I'm not sure we still wouldn't have an administration management person.
Which two am I supposed to give feedback about?
I think Emily versus Mary, is that right?
No,
Those,
Emily
Emily was
versus,
mine, but the ones that had the most votes, I think.
I don't know if it matters or not. Mary Green Keys is actually my supervisor that I work with her. And I do think she's fabulous, but I'm like, I think she's amazing. I think she's really nice and OT supporter and
you're muted, Amy.
I'm sorry, my dogs are going crazy. So I was trying to mute myself.
So the two that got the most votes were Wendy and
Christy.
Christy. Okay.
I'm just pointing out, I realize that Wendy got the most votes, but I am trying to point out that this would not meet, do y'all feel like she would meet our need for someone in administration?
Yeah, I'm looking at her thing now. I mean, I think she's over the it doesn't really look like it. I mean, she doesn't say it based on the information that we have. She just, she's in the school system, she's developed some programs, but it doesn't specifically say any kind of she's a lead occupational therapist. But that's all I know. So I don't know that I would check her under the box of management.
I mean, if we don't feel like we need that as a spot, but I thought we were trying to find somebody that was administration and management.
No, we are. I mean, it's definitely something we need to think about it.
So who was the other one, Wendy and who?
Christy.
Christy.
Really just management, and I don't know, like the last time she's been in patient care. She's been in management for a long time. Like before she was at LCMC, she was at university and then EJ, and she did like she was supervisor and did continuing ed and stuff. I mean, the other thing about Wendy though is, with all the school system, with them trying to not get prescriptions and stuff like that, like that kind of came to my mind. But do you feel like you probably need somebody in management on the committee?
One of the big things for me with Wendy was the fact that we do get a lot of school system questions. And like you say, they're always raising the question of, do you need the script? Do you not need the script? And lots of other questions. But then if we're looking specifically management, I do like what you said, Ingrid, about Mary, that hers is definitely that kind of direct management with practitioners. How many, like, I'm still confused, like how many names total are we submitting since there's 2 positions?
You're going to submit 3 names for each position, and you're going to give me your desired recommendation. And I will relay both of those to the board, and the board will say, we want the 2 that they recommended, or they'll say, we want this one and not another one, and they'll make the decision for each spot. They usually take your recommendations.
So the other thing to think about, like, this is kind of why I picked Meredith as the OTA, because she had the management clinical experience, and then did Wendy because of the school system. Like, that's kind of what put Meredith over Kathleen for me, if anyone wants to think about it that way. Like, because we do have a management option as an OTA too. But I don't know if we want to stick with our Kathleen, I'm fine with that. But that was just like my thinking of Meredith. But I don't think we can go wrong here, guys. I think we just need to pick the areas that are most needed and get, assistance to fight for the rules and regs being pushed through, to answer questions about that, to answer questions that we get, things like that. Like,
So of the OTs, you all think that Mary has the most management? Is that what everybody's saying?
I don't know. It's Christy has a lot too. I'd have to look at the number of years.
Okay.
Christie's does have a ton. Christie's is on the screen right now. And
Okay.
as you can see that she's not been a manager for occupational therapy since 2014. That 2014 is when she transitioned to even a higher level, associate vice president of operations. And that's cool. I mean, it's awesome. I'm just pointing out that since 2014, not really any direct OT.
So really the management position would be between Christy and Mary, right? That's what we need to look at.
Christy, Mary, Deirdre Green-Mondy also has she's the manager for rehab services at Ochsner West Bank. But nobody did choose her, so I guess people weren't into what they saw. So yeah, of the ones that we've been talking about, Christy and Mary Green Keys have got the management administration experience.
Christy and Mary, and then you had mentioned that Christy had applied previously. I mean, is there any stock in that she's really very interested in doing this?
I mean, I feel like anybody who's applied is interested. She reached out to me this year and said, hey, I applied last time, I didn't get it. I'm not sure why. I didn't really have any information, or could I disclose any information? And she said, is it worth applying again? I said, if you're still interested, absolutely. And so she did. And she immediately sent it. So I don't know. I mean, she's interested, but I'm assuming Mary's just as interested. Maybe if she didn't get it, she would apply again. It's hard to say. And it was kind of the same thing, like everybody recognized her strength, but we picked other options over because of practice area and location and all the things that we're talking about. It wasn't anything that we didn't like about her. It's just somebody to really fit the role of what we were looking for. So yeah, I mean, Ingrid, I think you raised a good point about Mary of the management part, really more over OTs. And do we know that the VA has OTAs? I feel like that would be important too. That'd be even more of a.
Personally, I like the fact that she has outside OT management experience, because it might bring might bring expertise that we need from other areas, you know, to be able to hear other voices, other things that are being said from other administrators or other disciplines, that kind of stuff. It might be beneficial. So that's kind of why I had Christy at the top of my list for the administrative position. I thought that could be a unique thing.
I do know, Mary is also currently, I don't know if it's on her resume, but been for the last few months, also supervising speech therapists and recreational therapists as they are hiring, you know, the person quit and she's been over them for a while. Because it takes forever for the VA to hire somebody new, but she has been doing that and doing other disciplines.
And
Between the two, I know both of them. I think we can't go wrong, but Mary is, I think there's a lot of benefits for her.
and would Amy, there's OTAs there that she's,
I don't think we have any. I think we have 17. I could be wrong with the exact number, but I think we're all OTs. I don't think anybody is an OTA currently. But I do know we do have them on staff, but I don't think any like under her.
Well, after discussion, should we just go down, take another vote of first choice? And if it turns out the same, then we'll go with the same. And if it turns out different, we'll go different. I mean, do people feel ready to sort of, now that we've kind of discussed and brought up different things, ready to do a second vote? Or is there anything else somebody wants to talk about?
Let's do a second vote.
Okay, I'm just gonna go down the list of names again. Christy Bruton, people who have her as their number one. Okay, Deirdre Green Mondi.
I'm sorry, hold on. Whenever you say number one, is it number one overall, or are we differentiating between our CODA recommendation, our administrative recommendation, and then another person? That's how I had mentally qualified. I'm sorry.
That's all right. No, I think we already got our CODA recommendation. We were going to do Kathleen Norcross, followed by Megan LaBeouf, followed by, depending on geographically.
Right, I agree with that.
So we are talking about like our second position that we've talked about whether that second position should be school system or somebody who's administrative, and there's pros and cons to both, but we are now on to our second position.
Okay.
So is there anybody who has Christy Bruton as their first choice for our second position?
She was mine.
Okay. Deirdre Green Mondi. Wendy Domingue.
I guess that was mine, right?
I mean, yes, we're doing a second.
Okay, I'm sorry, I lost y'all for a while. You know, my internet is fabulous here.
So Darby, Wendy Domingue, number one.
Yeah, I guess so.
Okay. Emily Dennis.
She's mine.
Okay, Kelly. Mary Green Keys. She is still my number one.
I'm going to vote for her too.
Amy.
Kim is as well.
Yeah.
And this is Brenda.
And Brenda. And Sam Harrison. Okay. So that has 4 people for Mary Green Keys, 1 for Emily Dennis, one for Wendy Domingue, one for Christy Bruton. So in terms of our order of recommendation to the board, obviously our first choice then would be Mary Green Keys. And then we have a three-way tie between Emily, Wendy, and Christy. I don't know how. I guess we could also look at geography.
Emily's Bossier City, Christie's New Orleans, Wendy's St. Tammany.
Yeah,
Emily and Wendy are both peds.
Kathleen Norcross is Monroe.
Emily also has administration
And Emily has administration experience
and OT and OTA.
and OT and OTA, so
Yeah,
a good choice for our second. In case the board doesn't accept our first.
yeah, I'd say do Emily
Okay.
based on everybody's input. Emily would be second, and then Christy would be third, right? Or Wendy, who was the third between?
Well, Christy has the administration experience.
Okay.
Okay, and then, so if our Mary is from New Orleans, and we were looking at the third between Meredith and Tina.
I thought it was between Meredith and Kathleen.
This is, I'm talking about for the coda now, that
Yeah.
Kathleen was first, Megan was second.
Right.
And Tina's from River Ridge and Meredith is
Baton
from
Rouge.
Baton Rouge, and we kind of needed more Baton Rouge, right? Especially because we were already getting Mary Key Greens is in New Orleans.
Yeah. So you're doing Kathleen, then Meredith.
No, Megan had 2 votes. So it was gonna be Kathleen first, Megan second, and now Meredith would be our third choice because Meredith is a better geography.
Okay. Okay.
Do we have to vote on this in any other more formal way, Darby?
I think we need to vote on.
Just, we need the 3 names and who you think is your number 1 candidate for each of the positions. That's all I need.
Okay, well, we'll have that in the minutes.
We have the 3 names and we have our first for both positions. One's an OT, one's an OTA. Okay. So no vote on that, correct? All right, we will continue. Do we have any public comments, Dr. Van?
Let me check to be sure. As always, I want to make sure. No public comment at this time.
Okay. So, everybody okay with that? We're free to move on?
I could use a 5-minute bathroom break.
Yeah, I was gonna suggest, because the next thing is the rules and regs. So, we can do that. It is 11:12. If we could be back for 11:17, that'd be great.
Okay, great.
We will break. Like
5 minutes.
5 minutes went by fast. What a day, and it's only 11. So do you see an end in sight to your role?
Well, we still, we just posted the job on higheredjobs.com. And now we've got this new tactic where we're emailing faculty members in Texas, Florida, I don't know, 3 other states. Basically, the woman who's my department coordinator is getting all these email addresses, and I've drafted an email, and she's sending it directly to individual people, trying to tempt them.
Story. All right, looks like everybody's pretty much back.
I got kicked out, and then all of a sudden I came back on and everybody's gone. I'm like, what
we were
happened?
on break.
I didn't hear any of that. I'm like, what happened?
Oh, well, we were chatting, actually. That's what you get for taking the bathroom back, Amy. You get kicked off.
I didn't. I got kicked off, and then nobody was there. I didn't know everybody took a break. I'm like, all right, it's Friday the 13th, and this is very weird.
Yeah, just text me. I try to keep my text. A lot of times people text and they're like, oh, I popped out. And like, I can't even tell that you popped out because I'm trying to juggle like 50 screens and everything.
I just got kicked off, and I'm like, all of a sudden I'm like, came back in and never.
That used to happen when we were teaching with Zoom all the time.
That happened to me a while ago. Yeah.
All of a sudden, one student would be frantically texting her classmates, tell Dr. Frank I'm not on.
Yeah, I just see you're in the chat now. That said it, but we were on break.
Yeah, I'm like, where is everybody? This is weird.
Sorry. Yeah, my internet.
I just thought it was my computer just going to crash or something. Like.
Okay, so the next thing up, we have 3 things left of the rules and regs. So the first one is the foreign trained. You don't have anything, I think, about that. So the foreign trained licensure, we were talking about the TOEFL scores. And I think Ingrid and Kelly, correct me if I'm wrong, found out that the minimum passing score is like an 89 total score, which is 63 on their reading, listening, and writing, and 26 on speaking. And then there's a Cambridge scale. I just didn't know how specific we wanted to be.
I think it would be better to just have one number.
Yeah, so do we just want to put like, minimum total score of, well, the NBCOT TOEFL internet-based test, 89 total score is their minimum. So do we just want to stick with that? Yeah, because that's consistent with NBCOT. Now there is a claim that says there's an exemption for graduates of occupational therapy programs in Australia, Canada, except Quebec, Ireland, New Zealand, United Kingdom, and United States, that they're exempt from the English language proficiency exam requirement. So I don't know if we wanted to include that as well, because we had talked about like, what if?
We had talked about how awkward it would be if somebody from Britain was that.
Yeah.
I like that.
Okay.
I like that too.
Okay. So that, that's taken from the NBCOT information.
This is my question. Do we definitely need to have that though? If you already need it for NBCOT, do we need to also, because you have to be an OT. To be an OT in Louisiana, you already have to do it by NBCOT, right?
No, so you have to pass the exam, but I think is that to be certified for NBCOT? Do you see what I'm saying? Like, I don't know that that's, like, if you pass the NBCOT exam, then you can be an OT. I think those minimum requirements were to be certified by NBCOT, which we don't have to be in Louisiana. I think that's how we kind of went back and forth with it.
I think Amy means that is NBCOT requiring foreign trained therapists to take the TOEFL?
I think if they want to be certified, but not if they just sit for the exam. I could be wrong. I think, I know Kelly said she was gonna pop in and out, but like Kelly's the one that found this. So I'm kind of wondering if it was to sit for the exam or to be certified, because that makes a big difference, right? Like, because we don't have to be certified in Louisiana. So technically you could take the exam, pass it, get your license and not speak English. Right? But to be certified through NBCOT, you would have to pass the TOEFL.
Kelly, do you know?
I'm going back to check the wording of that. If the individual goes through the VCBC process, then they will have to demonstrate English language proficiency. That is not part of the OTED process. And so the VCVC process, Visa Credential Verification Certificate, then to go through that process, they do have to show English proficiency. And I believe, doesn't our rules say that they have to have the Visa credential?
Yes.
I mean, I'm not positive. That was always confusing to me, but so there's a handbook for that. So I guess to take the exam, they don't, but it is only in English. So there's that. That would be difficult to do without English proficiency. But to go through the Visa certification, they do have to show it.
So our rules right now say that possession of H1 or equivalent visa, that they've completed all applicable requirements and procedures for issuance of a license or a permit and eligible for H1 or equivalent visa under the rules and regs by the USCIS. I don't know if that's the same as the VC. I don't know.
So the process, let me.
It's section 1940 if anybody's looking at it for our visa. But that's pending an application for visa. And they get a temporary permit until they get their visa.
So on the NBCOT site for the visa process, it says the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services granted NBCOT approval to issue healthcare worker certificates to individuals coming to the U.S. to practice in the field of OT. For this purpose, NBCOT administers a visa credential verification certificate process. Applicants who successfully complete this process receive a VCVC certificate, which meets the USCIS requirements. A summary of the requirements for issuing a VCVC are highlighted on the following page. So it sounds like they're kind of, we could just say that they go through the VCVC process through NBCOT, and then that really cuts us out of verifying those things because they have already been granted the approval to do that. So if we had a foreign trained applicant, then our eligibility could just be that they have a VCV certificate.
So right now it says that
Because that would just already, then they would have already shown English proficiency.
okay,
That's what I was thinking. I didn't know why we needed to have the test again if they already had to do it.
so this is why we had it. So under
I can't
qualification.
hear anyone anymore.
Oh, Amy, no, sorry, section 1907 under qualifications for license. To be eligible, 1, good moral character, 2, citizen. And then if not, then taking the NBCOT exam, file an application by the board, present proof of current certification. So that would include the English thing right there, right? If they have to do, but number 6 says non-native English speakers must submit proof of proficiency in English language by passing the TOEFL with a score acceptable by the board. But I'm wondering if we're covered by number 5 with present proof of current certification. But
Did y'all hear that thing that I just read, or was my volume down?
yeah, we heard it.
Okay, because all of a sudden it went down, so.
So I don't know why we have that number 6 in there, but I also am a little confused by proof of current certification because you don't really have to be certified by NBCOT to qualify for a license. right? Or I guess you do for the initial license?
Yeah, the initial you do. So that would be what these applicants are doing.
Yeah, so I think we could take out number 6 about non-English speaking because it'd be covered by NBCOT.
As long as they did the VC application or certificate, not just the
Have to
OTED.
If they have a current certification by NBCOT, right?
Well, there's two different types of certificates. There's the OTED, okay. And then there's the VCVC. They would have to get that certificate as well.
So should we put non-native English speakers must apply for the VCVC via NBCOT?
I say any foreign trained person needs to have the VCVC.
Because NBCOT already has the exception built in for the English speaking countries. So we could just say any foreign trained applicant has to have go through the VCVC process with NBCOT.
And that would cover everything because they've already been approved to do that.
Okay, so I'm playing Ingrid here. I'm going to read it. Foreign trained applicant must go through the VCVC process by NBCOT. Right?
Or they must not just go through the process, but like get the
Or how do
certification.
we say it?
Oh, let me see what it's called. Because to do this process, they have to provide their official transcript, the program director form, verification of OT license registration certification. I mean, they have to,
Perfect.
they're going through this process
Yeah.
for us, really.
Okay, so just tell me how to word it. All foreign trained applicants must, is it like get certified or what's the wording?
Let me see.
It's called the Visa Credential Verification Certificate process.
Must, what I say must get, must,
Obtain.
Your rules currently, I think, say, and I think we kept it in, that in order to get a license, you have to be a citizen or have a valid permission to live and work in the United States. And I think that's where you get your citizenship issue, and you go ahead and this is educational requirements, and it's language requirements if you want, but the Louisiana law requires everybody to have a valid permit to live and work in the United States or a citizenship.
Yeah.
this is to address the non-English speaking portion of it. So what we're saying is if they go through this process by NBCOT, then it guarantees that they've passed the TOEFL instead of us regulating whether or not they've taken the TOEFL.
So could you just say that they have a valid Visa credential verification certificate through NBCOT?
That will not get them a license.
No. But that would be
Okay.
a requirement to be eligible to apply for a license.
Well, but again, even with that, they would be denied. Because if that, again, training visas are not working visas. So if somebody comes in to train, they're generally on a J1 visa. They cannot work on that training visa. So again, to be licensed, you have to have a valid permission to live and work in the United States, which is different from training. And
Well-
see, the NBCOT kind of thing is rolled into training and taking the exam. But again, when NBCOT can't tell us in Louisiana what the citizenship requirements are. The statute and the law in Louisiana says a valid permission to live and work in the United States or be a citizen to be licensed for healthcare.
Well,
But Dr. Van, we don't want to eliminate that language. We're just adding language saying
One-
that.
But again, is it the right place to put it? And is it going to cause consternation from somebody thinking, well, I did what they required. I have a J1 visa. I've taken my NBCOT on my J1 visa, and now they won't license me to work in Louisiana.
So here's what we have, Dr. Van, under qualifications for licensure in 1907. We have number 1, to be eligible for a license, an applicant shall 1, be of good moral character, be a citizen of the United States or possess valid and current legal authority to reside and work in the United States,
Right.
the immigration services. Number 3, taken and passed the NBCOT file the application for licensure prescribed by the board, present proof of current certification by NBCOT in a manner prescribed by the board. And number 6 was dealing with those who were non-native English speaking.
But they would still, whether they're non-native English speaking or not, they have to have the first one that you said.
Right, correct. We're
So
just
you've
making-
said it already. I mean, all they have to do is be non-natives, have passed the course to be non-native English speaker, because you're requiring it at the second, good moral character. And then number 2 is live and work, permission to live and work in the United States and be a citizen. So these are all the things you're adding, and you're putting it in twice, which may cause some disconsternation, sir. But if that's
Well-
what you want to do, it's your rules.
I mean, the discussion from last month was, in theory, hypothetically, someone could meet all those qualifications that are before 6 and not be proficient in the English language. I don't know if that's a realistic thing or not. I don't know. But given the exams they have to pass and so forth and so on. But that's why we messed with that and tried to work and tweak language that we felt would work for that. If you're pretty well convinced that that circumstance really couldn't really occur, given all the other qualifications that are of necessity are going to require proficiency with the English language, then you can leave it out. But for those of us who've done a million things since the last time we talked, that's why we worked on that provision, because we thought of a hypothetical situation where somebody could meet all the other qualifications and still not be very good at communicating in English.
Exactly. So we had the language with TOEFL, but when we looked into it to see what NBCOT's minimum score was, that's where we realized that NBCOT requires like an 89, but then they go through this VCVC process, then it would guarantee that they are proficient in English.
Right.
So we didn't want the board to have to find out what their TOEFL score was.
Right. Exactly.
If they did all this process through NBCOT, then it wouldn't be our issue.
Right.
So that's why we were saying all foreign trained applicants must obtain the visa certification, whatever the rest of it was, but no, that's why we.
What did
And
you say?
as I'm reading it more closely, I'm not sure that we're not talking apples and oranges anyway. Because we're talking to get your initial Louisiana license if you were foreign trained. And as I read deeper into the VCVC, it sounds like that's more to get your NBCOT if you're already coming with an OT license from another country.
Gotcha.
Which are two different things.
So maybe we just need to leave non-native English speakers must submit proof of proficiency in the English language by passing the test of English as foreign language with a score acceptable to the board. Or with a minimum score of 89 if we want to list a score, because that's congruent with NBCOT.
Yeah, let's leave the
That's
score.
what- yeah.
This won't be a burden if they all wound up taking the test through NBCOT anyway. Then all they have to do is upload their score.
Yeah, and if somebody goes through, I know one of you all mentioned, I can't remember who, but one of you all mentioned maybe each institution has its own passing score. So if they passed it somewhere else and they come in and say, well, my institution said 87 is good enough, I'm sure y'all can make a waiver or whatever, but.
Using NBCOT, since that's where they're probably taking it anyways, would be the smartest.
Okay, so we'll just leave it how we voted on it last time with a score acceptable to the board. Okay, so we will not change anything. So I'm assuming we don't need a vote since we're not making a change.
Are we changing because we're saying that we're going to add the specific number?
Oh, no, I thought we just said that with a score acceptable to the board.
Oh, I thought, okay, and I thought we did
thought-
want to go with a number.
Yeah, I thought that was the whole reason we were kind
Yeah,
of.
that was the whole reason we brought it up. We did want to go with a number so that
Okay.
it doesn't get so fuzzy.
I'm still confused about Dr. Van, you're saying that this is just for training? Do you mean, what do you mean by that?
Okay, for example, somebody can come into this country and train to be an OT, and they're on what's called a J1 visa. That's a training visa.
Right.
They literally have up to 6 years with a possible 7th year to get their training,
So these
So,
people already have their training as far as their education, but they're applying through NBCFT to actually get a visa to work.
Right, here's the deal. They may want to take some, they may need to take some additional training. I don't know what NBCT is ever going to do. NBCOT may say you need to have some training in the United States for a year or something like that. Again, we don't know what they're going to do. And if you're locking it into there, you're always locked into what they do and change over time. So I'm comfortable with that. And if somebody is a J1 visa, I cannot give them a license. I have to give the license on the type of visa it is. And I just want to make sure you understand. Let's say they came in to do, they wanted to, let's say they've trained fully in Bangladesh, okay? But they're not fluent in English. They want to come here and they want to do a year in your program, Ingrid, just to get up and running with the English and the utilization of it. They come in on a J1 visa, they train on that J1 visa. You all of a sudden, at the end of the year, they're very proficient in English. They take the NBCOT. They cannot work on that J1 visa after they pass the NBCOT.
I don't think this is a J1 visa through NBCOT. Did you see that on here that that's what this is? Or
NBCOT, in other words, they could have done that 1 year of training, let's say, for example, to be proficient in English by training a year or working a year in English program as a trainee. That would only take a J1 visa. So now they pass the NBCOT.
You're only allowed to get this visa certificate through NBCOT if you've graduated from a program outside of the US.
But you could graduate from Bangladesh, have poor
Right.
language skills, want to get a year of the clinical language experience, and they could do training in the Louisiana State program, okay? And they could train that year on a J1 visa, take the NBCOT, and I still can't give them a license.
Okay.
How do I say this? It's taken me some time. It took me 3 years to understand this licensing and this work about the visas. Okay.
Uh-huh.
And let me tell you what actually happened to us. We got a lovely letter pointing out to us that the board had accidentally allowed licenses, unrestricted licenses, to be granted to people on J1 visas. Our attorney general said we needed to fix that. He told me the problem, and we went through and we actually had people practicing on J1 visas. That's not what the law allows. And so we had to go back and get everybody to either give us their green card, their H-1B visa, or other visa that allowed them to live and work in the United States. And again, it's really confusing because there are a number of types of visas. For example, J1 is just to train. You can be paid to train, but all you can do is train. You can come to the United States to work because of a special need. Let's say we had a critical shortage of people who are in OTs. You could say, well, I'm going to go and work for XYZ Rural Hospital, and they need an OT badly, and they're going to get me an H-1B visa. And we see this with doctors all the time. The H-1B visa allows them to work, nothing else. So again, I just need you to understand that the visa requirements of NBCOT are going to be superseded by the state requirements for licensure. So you can put it any way you want, but our interpretation will always be the state requirements for valid permission to live and work in the United States.
Thank you. Okay, so the way that it's written now, we're going to take out with a score acceptable to the board and put with a minimal total score of 89, 63 on reading, listening, and writing, and 26 on speaking.
I don't think we ought to get as specific as that. Let's just
put
keep it at 89.
Well, I think NBC has that because of the speaking part. Like if you bomb the speaking part, but you can read it and write it. I don't know. I'm fine taking it out, but I assume that's why they had a specific part on the speaking.
I just think, I don't know,
Okay, we can just
but
put
the
it.
other schools that I was looking at just have one number.
Okay, so we okay with 89, which is congruent with NBCOT? Okay. Do we have any questions or any other comments? No, not. I'm gonna motion to make the changes to section 1907, number 6, regarding the non-native English speaking, to include the score for the TOEFL. Would someone like to second?
Kim will second.
Thank you, Kim. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Okay, so we'll check that off the list. All right, the next one that is on the agenda is the use of the title doctor. So if you're on the cloud share and you scroll, there's a use of title, it's page 7, and the actual information starts on page 8. I don't know if Ingrid, do you want to get permission and do that, or you want to look at the rule? I don't know how you want to do this, but basically, I looked at all the states and summarized the information. The 3 that had stuff, even though AOTA said that a couple of states had specifics, I didn't see it in their rules yet, were California, Iowa, and Texas. So if you look at the thing on the cloud share, California basically has the writing that Ingrid and I were most comfortable with, as far as it says a licensee who has earned a doctoral degree in occupational therapy, which would be an OTD, or after adoption of the regulations described, a doctoral degree in a related area of practice or study may do the following. Number 1, in written communication, use the initials OTD, DRPH, PhD, or EDD as applicable following the licensee's name. So they can write the initials after they write their name. But in written communication, use the title doctor or the abbreviation doctor preceding the licensee's name if the licensee's name is immediately followed by an unabbreviated specification of the applicable doctoral degree held by the licensee. And 3, in spoken communication, while engaged in the practice of occupational therapy, use the title doctor preceding the licensee's name if the licensee specifies that he or she is an occupational therapy practitioner.
Did I share the screen with everybody? Is everyone seeing this?
Yep.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. So that kind of breaks it down into like written communication and the initials. Iowa just had a blanket statement saying that an OT with an earned doctoral degree from accredited school, college, or university may use the suffix designating the degree or the prefix doctor or DR period and add after the person's name the words occupational therapist. And then Texas, if you scroll down to the highlighted part, it talks about the title and abbreviation. If an occupational therapy practitioner is practicing in a higher education setting or assigning as an author for publication that requires a recognized publication format, then the titles would be the abbreviation, the degrees, and the certification.
So, yes, Dr. Van?
The exact requirement in Louisiana law is defined in the statute 51:413. And if you do anything else other than that, and people follow the advice in these rules and not what's in the law, they could be in trouble. So I might want to tell you, it's fine to do what all those other people do, but make sure it fits Louisiana law exactly.
Yes, yes, we're aware of that. We just wanted it to be in our rules because OTs aren't gonna go searching out statute number, whatever in the law. So we wanted our rules to reflect the Louisiana law. And that's why we thought the California language reflected the our Louisiana law. That in spoken communication, the licensee in the use of the title doctor preceding the name, that they also have to specify it's a doctor of occupational therapy, like, good morning, I'm Ingrid Frank, doctor of occupational therapy.
But California doesn't really say that. It just says that they use the title doctor, but just has to specify that they're an OT practitioner.
And
So it'd be
spoken
like
communication
Dr.
uses
Ingrid
title-
Frank, OT practitioner, not like doctorate of physical therapy. So it could still sort of be misleading, I guess.
It says the only way you can call yourself doctor is if you specify that you're an occupational therapy practitioner.
Right. But
Yeah, we
you're
can
not,
change it up and make it tighter for sure. We can change it how we want, but
Here's
they are requiring that the person says that they're an OT and not just introduce themselves as Dr. Ingrid Frank.
right. Well, like, I think the Louisiana law says that you would have to say doctorate of occupational therapy.
Well, that's what we ought to say. I just thought this was closest, that's all.
Yeah, for sure. So Dr. Van, do you agree that this parallels the Louisiana law?
It is similar, but it is not the same. But again, Pat will correct it to make sure that it meets the law. Again, it's probably simpler to just refer them to a section, but we can take the law and put the language of the law in Louisiana right there for you.
I mean, we could just say as stated in, and then put the section and then copy it verbatim from that. Ingrid, do you think that would be better?
Sure.
Dr. Van, can you give me the statute numbers again, please?
Yes, ma'am. And what I'm going to try and do is email it to you at the end of the,
Okay, that'd be great.
but it's Reserve Statute 51:413, A and B.
Okay.
I still think it's gonna have to get tweaked to be like an example for occupational therapists.
Yeah, no, I agree. So we're just gonna put it like this format from California, but just reference that statute and then make sure
And mesh.
it matches. But I completely agree with you. Like number 3, we're gonna have to put like preceding the licensee will have to specify that it's a doctorate of occupational therapy or. Yeah.
Now, I will tell you that there is a clause in that law that said designation shall not be necessary if such term is a part of the person's legal name. And we have had one licensee in 35,000 who has changed their first name legally to DOCTOR. So understand but again, if you read it, it's fairly detailed about what they can do and how they're supposed to do it. Even if to the point if it's an honorary doctorate degree.
Okay. Do y'all feel like we need to put that part in there?
That's why I say I would just refer to the statute.
Okay. Yeah, I think
Because-
that's what we were thinking.
Dr. Van, you would rather we not give specific at all and just simply say, have a section, use of the title of doctor, please refer to statute, Louisiana
LARS.
statute number, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, I think that would be better But Pat's the expert, and I'll let Pat weigh in on this too, but I would not try and give them examples that don't fit clearly everything in the law, because then if they go outside the examples and they're outside of the law, they're going to get dinged. So
Okay.
why don't we just say what the law says it has to be? I mean, Pat, maybe you want to weigh in on it.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't looked at that revised statute in a minute here, and but I will. And I think that we're trying to merge the two goals of being legally accurate and not sending somebody off to do something that's not legally correct, but also trying to make this a self-contained document to where they can read this document, our rules, and know within its four corners what they're able to do. So I will, I'm going to take a look at that statute, and I'll see if there's a way to merge those two goals together to accomplish what I want to do. Using the proposals that you have already, like from California and stuff. So not using it as the law, but maybe the structure to also let them see, even if it's just one example, a formulaic example, just to show them the format.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Thank you. Dr. Van, your hand's up. Is that from earlier?
That's from earlier. I apologize. I'll
No,
lower it.
that's okay. Just making sure. Proud of myself for checking. Okay, so Pat's going to get with us on that. We'll look at that that statute and see what we can do just to make it clear and worth mentioning. Okay. And then Pat, if you need it, it's our section 1951.
Perfect.
Where we would put it. Okay. All right, so that brings us to the next thing, which is the definition section. So let's see, Olivia put the definitions on the cloud share, but I think it's a different document. Am I right? When I went to look. Yeah.
I can do.
So on the cloud share, it's not part of like the agenda in that document. Or maybe Ingrid, if you could pull it up since you're screen sharing the document that's called definitions 2. So basically,
do I have it up? Can you
yeah.
see it? Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So basically, originally, Ingrid and I, so on the rules that like historically we've been sharing, Ingrid and I had started to break the definitions down into domain and process, but now I'm thinking that we think that that's not like necessary or appropriate. So basically what I did is I just plucked out the 2 parts that we have definitions in, and then felt like we needed to compare to see what's in it, what's not needed. And then at the end of the list, this is revised. I sent y'all 2. One was definitions, one was definitions 2, because I forgot to put in the list at the very end in green of each section, but the list that we've been saying like, oh, we need to make sure we put that in the definition. So I've been kind of keeping a separate log. And Ingrid, if you scroll to the very bottom, there's even more at the very bottom. So we need to figure out what goes where and what we need to keep. So going to the very beginning is the scope of chapter of our beginning of our rules and regs, and those definitions tend to be things that are really not, you'll see it's not like practice-y related. So I kind of highlighted them just so we could catch them earlier, like applicant, application, and then association. And I kind of added like LOTA because I don't know that we ever refer to just the association. I think we list like the LOTA, but we would have to check. Board, we definitely refer to the board as just board. So, we would have to put that in there. I put a question mark next to Louisiana Department of Health and Hospitals. I don't know that we ever say LDHH. I know it's like written in the bottom under historical notes, but then it's written out. good moral character, we definitely have, as we learned earlier, we talked about to apply for a license, you have to do that. License, we refer to the Practice Act and BCOT, occupational therapist, and then occupational therapy. Ingrid and I put in the definition from AOTA from 2020. And then we have assistant and practitioner, person, and physical agent modalities. So if you look down, just so we can kind of get some idea of organization, that's like section 1901, down much further, even though it's in one document for this purpose. Sections 4901 gets into specific definitions that are like more OT specific, like ADLs, adaptive equipment, and it's repetitive. It has board, client care conference, blah, blah, blah. So I don't know if maybe Patricia can kind of tell us like why they're separated, if they need to stay separated, what we put in each one, do we repeat like they have? Like, I just kind of feel like I need a little bit of clarification before we like make decisions of what to keep and what to add.
Yeah, no, you don't need to have redundancies. You don't need to have obsolete things. And what happens is they get added over time, and so they may have started out with a cohesive document and then they decided they wanted to add another definition, or they tweaked a rule and so they needed a definition, and it just gets all thrown up there. So you are free at this moment, since you're doing a tip to toes overhaul of this, to structure it in any way that's pleasing and effective for you.
Okay, thank you. That's helpful. So guys, what do y'all think about the fact that there's like two different sections? Do we merge them? If we do, where do we put them? What do y'all's thoughts?
Merge them.
Who was that, Ingrid? Did you say merge them?
Oh, yeah, I would definitely want to merge them.
Okay. If we merge them, what section would we want them under? Because see, right now, Title 46 is like specific to like OT assistance. I mean, not Title 46. The first section subpart's licensure. The second subpart is practice. So I think that's how they were differentiated before.
But if we put it at the very beginning of our rules, it was just going to be definitions that will pertain throughout the document.
Right, so it's better, I mean, you're saying it's better to have them at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And then, okay. Anyone else have any thoughts or suggestions?
I like merging, and I like at the beginning, if that's,
Yeah.
like, if we only have to have it one place.
Yeah, I mean, I think they had it too, because like one was just related to more of the licensure process, and then one was more practice. But I think a lot of the practice ones we don't really need in there. So, okay, well, let's just, I guess, start going through them. We have right at an hour, and just kind of get as much as we can done as to whether or not we feel like we need to keep them, and if we need to like go and look up one for later, that's fine too. But so the first one is the applicant. We refer to this name a lot, and this is the person who has applied to the board for a license to engage in the practice of occupational therapy in the state of Louisiana. I don't really think we should change anything. And then my other question for y'all too is, once something is defined, do you want to italicize it every time it's in the document so that they know they can refer back to it?
I think that's a formatting thing that Patricia will help us with later.
Yeah, we don't normally do that. We just say, you know, the following terms used in this part shall have the meaning, blah, blah, blah. And
Okay.
then, yeah.
Okay, all right. Thank you. All right, application. A written request directed to and received by the board upon form applied by the board for a license to practice occupational therapy in the state of Louisiana, together with all information, certificates, documents, and other materials required by the board to be submitted with such form.
I mean, other than the fact that it's all like electronic now for the most part, but that word forms, I guess, could be interpreted that way, I would imagine.
And we could change the word forms to information. Or data, I mean, whatever.
Well, yeah, or in the form required by the board or something.
Oh, okay. I was just getting it out. I was like, Ingrid, do you want me to change or you gonna change? Perfect. Okay. Okay. We're ready to keep going.
Wait, hang on, I'm stuck on the last word. And other materials required by the board to be submitted with,
Such form.
or just to be submitted, period? Yeah, because the forms was throwing me there.
Yeah, all right.
So
Or
we're
just other
saying
materials required by the board, period.
Yeah, you don't even need to be submitted. Just put a period after.
board. Okay. Good.
Huh.
All right, then association. We don't ever refer to it by association. Do we just put like LOTA and then spell out the acronym?
I agree. I think association's too vague.
Yeah, okay, so it was formerly association, so now we're just gonna put LOTA and then spell out the acronym and we take it out of the N. Right, we can get rid of the LOTA at the end.
Usually you would, oh, I guess so. Yeah.
But
Do
if there's
we ever refer to it as LOTA without actually saying it's the Louisiana Occupational Therapy Association?
Yes, we do. In the document,
Okay.
we say the LOTA. Like
Okay.
do
multiple
you
times.
ever refer to any other association other than the LOTA? Because if you don't, then you don't need to define LOTA and
No.
just know what its acronym is.
So what we were putting in there were things like NBCOT, LOTA, AOTA, but we never really say association.
Okay. So why do you need to define? I mean, you're not really defining it. You're just saying what its initials are, and
Yeah, so we wouldn't, as long as the first time we use it, we put that behind it, right?
yeah.
Okay. So we can take that one out.
Yeah,
Okay.
unless you ever refer to a generic association that you need to refer back to that definition, then you don't need it.
All right, so I just looked up the I looked it up and there is a section under effective application. Section 1915 under C, it says submission of an application for licensing to the board shall constitute and operate as a and consent by the application to the board to disclose and release any information or documentation set forth in or submitted with the applicant's application or obtained by the board from other persons, firms, corporations, associations, or government entities.
That's okay. That still encompasses,
Like, yeah,
right.
okay, so we're good. All right, I just wanted to double check before. we don't use it, and then we did. Okay, so then the next one is kind of the same. It's just, we have department where it's Louisiana Department of Health and Hospitals, but we don't really refer to anything as a department.
Do we even refer to the Louisiana Department of Health and Hospitals?
So it's listed a lot in the historical notes. We do list it in that same effective application after we mention like AOTA, LOTA, and then we say the Louisiana Department, but we say Louisiana Department of Health. We don't
Which
say,
is the name they go by now.
yeah. So I think we can take that out completely.
Yeah, if you ever need to refer to the department in any way, just say the name.
Yeah, so we say Louisiana Department of Health.
Yeah.
And then the next one is good moral character. I did the bold applicant because that was the first time I was trying to find like where we say applicant, but that was the first one. So this is as applied to an applicant means that the applicant has not prior to or during pendency of an application to the board been guilty of any act, omission, condition, or circumstance which would provide legal cause under. Do we need to check that that statute's still there? I mean, I don't know how to do that, but
Patricia would probably catch that later.
yeah.
Yeah, I'll go back and make sure all the references line up, that there haven't been any changes to those.
Okay, for the suspension or revocation of occupational therapy licensure, the applicant has not prior to or in connection with his, I think we need to change the his. Application made any representation to the board knowingly or unknowingly, which is in fact false or misleading, as to a material fact or omits to state any fact or matter that is material to the application. And the applicant has not made any representation or failed to make a representation or engage in any act or omission which is false, deceptive, fraudulent, or misleading in achieving or obtaining any of the qualifications for license required by the job. I feel like that's like LSBME definition.
Sounds good to me.
I'm guessing. I don't know where that came from, but okay, the next one is license, the lawful authority to engage in the practice of occupational therapy in the state of Louisiana as evidenced by a certificate duly issued by and under the official seal of the board. I think that stays. Then this refers to the Louisiana Therapy Practice Act or the Act.
I wouldn't mind, because I feel like an area of major confusion is the fact that the Practice Act is also called the law, and that our rules are not actually part of the Practice Act.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't mind somehow adding that when we say Practice Act, this refers to the laws regulating the practice of occupational therapy.
Well, I mean, I feel like that's the definition. So I think we put that as a definition, and then we can put that statute thing after so that as it's amended or supplemented, it still refers to it. Do you see what I'm saying? So like the definition of it is what you just said. It's the law that governs, or that what's the verb that you use? The law that what did you say, Ingrid? Do you remember the law that
Yeah, the laws that govern
the practice of
govern the practice of occupational therapy in the state of Louisiana.
Mhm.
Oops,
And then
this-
as it says,
that should be in red because we haven't voted on it yet.
yeah, it says under, the one before says under the RS, so we could put like the laws that govern the practice of occupational therapy in the state of Louisiana under RS 39, blah, blah, blah. That's just how it's worded in the good moral character one, so I guess that's the legal.
And keep in mind too, that presumably, I haven't looked at it, but presumably when you all worked on the course for law and rules with Susie, there's some reference to the fact that the Practice Act is in the statutes and the Practice Act is implemented through the rules adopted by you all as recommended to the board. So that the laws and the rules are two distinct things. I'm assuming that's somewhere in that course.
Yeah, probably, but actually adding a definition for occupational therapy rules based on like what you just said, that the rules are how the law is implemented. Or whatever you
Maybe
said.
maybe up in scope of chapter, the rules of this chapter govern the licensing of occupational therapists and occupational therapy to engage and implement the Occupational Therapy Practice Act, LARS, blah, 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 blah. Implement the laws found in, whatever, something along those lines. Right up there in A, right under 1501A. I mean, 1901A.
Okay. Right here under 1901A, we would have something like what you just said.
Yeah, but above in scope of chapter, the rules of this chapter.
The rules
Yeah.
of this chapter govern the licensing to
To
engage.
engage in practice of what, comma, and implement the provisions of the Occupational Therapy Practice Act, whatever its actual title is, as found in blah, 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 LARS, blah.
Okay.
All right, so I'm gonna call it out 39:3001-3014 as hereafter amended or supplemented. I don't know if you need that too.
No, because it's not frozen in time. The way it reads now is whatever the current version is what it implements.
Okay, thank you.
Do you need the word act in what you just typed, Ingrid?
Yes.
Does that meet your goal and needs, Ingrid, that you were?
Yes.
Okay.
So nice to have you here, Patricia.
Oh,
Okay, so the next one is just NBCOT, and I think that's like LOTA, like we give the acronym the first time that we do it. So I'll make notes to check these things. Okay, and then occupational therapist, a person who is licensed to practice occupational therapy as defined in this chapter and whose license is in good standing. All right. Then this occupational therapy definition is the newer one from 2020 document from AOTA. I didn't look up, I meant to see if there was a newer one, but
There's not yet.
yeah, so I mean, y'all can read through it, y'all. It's just basically like what it includes. Rehabilitation, rehab, promotion, physical and mental wellness to the clients, which is congruent with the language that we use in this document. Physical and mental health. Yeah.
I'm just
No.
gonna put this in red because this is a change we will have to vote on because this is new.
Okay, yeah, it would be this whole section, yeah. Okay, remind me, I don't want to open up a can of worms. Is this where we were supposed to put that we could do physical agent modalities? When there's something that we said we had to make sure, like, we don't mention it anywhere, like, I know we added as a definition. I'll find out. Let's just keep going. OT assistant, a person licensed by the board to provide occupational therapy services under the supervision of and in partnership with a licensed occupational therapist. Okay. Then the practitioner, pretty sure that's new, Ingrid.
Yep, that is new. This one we added.
When the term occupational therapy practitioner is used in this document, refers to both occupational therapist and occupational therapy assistant. Right? Person, any individual, partnership, incorporated, association, or corporate body, except that only an individual may be licensed under this chapter.
I don't really understand it.
I don't either. I don't know if we need it. Patricia, is that just like a legal thing that we include in there?
Let's see.
Definition of person.
Any individual. Yeah. I guess there are such things as juridical persons. So if we, I don't see why we need that.
Okay. I mean, do y'all agree that like it's just
It feels unnecessary.
Yeah, I don't think anywhere in here we talk about juridical persons. We either refer to institutions or practices, or we refer to practitioners. So I think we're good.
okay? All right, next one is physical agent modalities. That's new as well. See, I think we already voted on that, didn't we? Maybe not. We'll just, yeah. So that was the definition we got. I don't remember where. Physical agent modalities characterized by an adjunctive method used in conjunction with or in immediate preparation for patient involvement in physical activity. Okay, so these are the things in green are things that we refer to or mention that we said we needed to put in, and then the numbers next to it are the sections of where they were mentioned. I don't know where the framework was mentioned, but so I don't know if we want to, do we want to define these now or just go through the big list of definitions? And then we can make a list of things to define. We have like 40 minutes. Like I'd kind of rather go through the list and knock them out. Okay, so. All right, so. Rolling. Ingrid, you're on mute.
Sorry. If we do refer to the OTPF and the guidelines somewhere in the document, I don't remember if we do or don't, but if we do, we need to define it.
I think we do. That's why I wrote it down. I think it was like evaluation maybe or something where we said like using the framework as a guide or something.
Why do we have temporary and provisional temporary on the list?
Okay, so there were two places in the document, and I can look them up, where they were mentioned, and it was like a little bit confusing because remember last time we were like doing this whole so there's section, I guess you can put it next to temporary permit is no, it's temporary license.
Yeah, and we did say that we needed to we still need to go back and look at the temporary licensure section. Based on stuff we learned later from Dr. Van, we felt like there was something we missed when we first reviewed temporary licensure. I don't remember what it was.
Well, we don't grant temporary licenses because licenses give you property rights and give you a host of whole other things, but you can give permits.
You can get a permit. There
Yeah,
we go.
so every other license class that allows for some kind of interim credentialing like that, we're making them, if they haven't already, change everything to permit.
Got it.
Okay, so,
Oh, would that have to be in a definition section?
well, I don't. So it's subchapter 1937. We have a whole thing on temporary license that I guess we'll have
So
to.
that will have to change.
Yeah, so that'll be on the agenda for next time, because we have a whole subchapter that's titled temporary license. And there's like temporary license in general, then there's license pending examination, re-examination, renewal. And the word temporary license is used like a lot. Then we have section 1940 that says provisional temporary permit pending application for visa.
Lord have mercy.
That's why I see I have 1940 there. So I guess next to temporary permit, Ingrid, if you could just put 1937 next to it, and that'll like cue us to like under the one above it, 1937, because that's a
But
whole.
as far as definitions, you do want to have definitions for these, Darby?
I don't know, but I just know that we, like, even Kelly would sometimes bring up like what is exactly that mean, or how long is it good? You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, then let's try to find it.
I'd say leave it for now, because we definitely have to deal with it. Whether we scratch it at the end, that's fine. I don't know why OTAC's there for 1957. I'm flipping to that section.
Well,
Oh,
let's
yeah.
probably have a definition for that.
For
Yeah.
OTAC?
Yeah. Huh?
No, we've already been through that. No, I think it was just spelling out the acronym, so I think we can remove it.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so now this would be under the practice part. Which I think a lot of this can go personally. I don't know. I mean, okay, so the first one is activities of daily living. We need a definition of that, like.
It just depends if that's a term of art or practice that you use later on, and I confess I don't remember. But if you don't refer to it in what you're saying they can or can't do, under what circumstances and with what training, then no, you don't need to have it in there.
I would agree with what she just said. I would think we wouldn't need that based on how we,
Yeah,
and neither activity limitation
yeah,
or adaptive equipment.
we already
We
did that.
already talked about the board.
And then
Client.
we did not do client yet. Person, group, program, organization, or community for whom the occupational therapy practitioner is providing service.
I like keeping that as a definition, but especially because OTs don't sometimes just treat like a single person. Sometimes they're consulted for an organization, and this kind of clarifies that.
And do we need to leave American OTA? Do we need to leave AOTA if we don't have like the specific year where we got it from?
No.
Okay. Right. And client care conference, I feel like is maybe new.
Quick question about client. So all through our document, we refer to client versus patient, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
And
And
anywhere
that's
that we missed, I need to change.
I'm sorry, what, Patricia?
Anywhere that we may have accidentally missed because we didn't really look at something, every time you refer to someone who is receiving your services, it should be client.
Correct.
Okay, cool, got it.
Yeah, we've tried to do it. I'm not saying we're perfect, but
No, I'm sure you did, just in case I come across it. There won't have been a reason why you specifically left it non-conforming.
No, and even in the definition earlier of OT, it refers to client, so that's
Yeah,
consistent
perfect.
there.
Okay.
All right, then client care conference. is the meeting between the supervising OT, who must have previously evaluated or treated the client, and an OT assistant to discuss the client progress or lack thereof, client issues, revision of goals, and initiation, modifications, termination of an individual program plan, assessment of utilization of additional resources, discharge, and any other information which may affect the client's plan of care. Except when specifically required in this chapter to be conducted by face-to-face conference, such meeting may be undertaken by telephone or other means of telecommunications, which allows for simultaneous interactive discussion between the supervising OT and OTA. I think that's new. Not sure.
Did we change this?
I'm looking right now.
I don't think so, because we would have put it in a color. I think.
Looking. No, we didn't, but that was there.
Yeah.
I think that needs to be, yeah. Okay, and then close client care supervision is face-to-face observation of an occupational therapy assistant administering occupational therapy to a client, accompanied or followed in a timely fashion by verbal discussion of client goals, the individual program plan, and other matters which may affect the client's plan of care. So I don't know how we feel about timely fashion. Probably not good language to use. Because it's a little.
I'm still looking at client care conference because we later, did we not later talk about that telecommunication or phone calls were okay? Although I guess the way this is phrased, except when specifically required, such meeting may be undertaken by phone, which allows for, I guess this definition is okay. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. Always question it. You never know.
Because it allows for either thing, but it could be that I feel like we took out the requirement.
The face-to-face thing.
Yeah, I think so. Well, I'm not sure.
I'm trying to find it. Service competency, supervision of assistants. General supervision shall consist of a client care conference at least monthly for each individual client. This is considered to be a minimum standard. Can be conducted using a variety of types and methods of supervision and may include observation, modeling, co-treatment, discussion, teaching, instruction, phone conversation, video, teleconferencing, and/or other secure telecommunication technologies. So we kind of define it in section 4926 that's untitled at the moment under general supervision, but because we're talking specifically about the client care conference.
So would we need a separate definition? And if we do, shouldn't they just be exactly the same thing?
I don't know, because this is really like specifying the general supervision requirements. So you have like general supervision, and then within that, so all we're saying is general supervision is required for all OT assistants by an OT. General supervision shall consist of a client care conference at least monthly. And then you come back to this, and it would be like what it is and what you discussed, blah, blah, blah. And then up here, it goes back to this is a minimum standard, the frequencies up to the OT and the OTA, and this is how it can be conducted, observation modeling. So I kind of feel like we need both.
Okay.
Can you
At
go to
first I did.
4925 and
I'm sorry, say it again.
do you mind scrolling to 4925?
It's not in this document because this
Oh,
is definitions. It's 4926. Do you want to look at it? 'Cause we can get you there.
I had the rules.
It's in the OT rules and revisions condensed. It's on the cloud share.
Okay. I thought I had saved it, but it doesn't.
4926. It just doesn't have a title because it has title with a question mark because we added it.
Can y'all, I do have the rules up now.
Now
Can
I
you
want to see it's black, but
I got a black screen.
too black,
A black screen, eh?
too black. It like has a line in the middle divided,
Yeah,
like double black this.
Okay, that's so weird. How about now?
yep.
Right
There you
there.
Wait, you can see the rules now, or you're still looking at the
The rules.
definitions?
Now we
rules.
see the rule.
I can see the rules.
All
Okay.
green. That's not the
Yes.
one that they have though. That's not the condensed one, but yeah, that's it.
This is our latest rules, unless
Yeah.
you changed
Just so
it.
y'all know, I didn't really clarify when I sent it. The condensed version is the one without what used to be there because Patricia's gonna need both. So I started working on the condensed version. So that's the difference of the two.
All right, well, this is the uncondensed version, so
Okay,
here's
right.
here's where we created.
It says
General-
the same thing.
So the part that used to say 25%, 10% and all of that, where's that section?
Gone.
So can I, is that before this or after this? Because it should be marked out, right?
Let's see. Yeah,
Or
it's
not
gonna
have-
be in,
49, 25
I think it's, gonna- I don't,
or
I can't look on mine because mine's a condensed version. I think it's gonna be, there's a section OTA supervision.
I think it's right before this. Maybe. Oh,
Um,
I don't remember either. Things,
49.25 though.
it's not 49.25.
I don't know where, I don't see it.
49.25 is supervision of OT assistant. So
19, so keep going down. 49.26. There it is, okay.
but I don't see what we crossed out.
Yeah, I don't either.
it was kind of in a bunch of weird places. Remember, like we organized. it?
Yeah, I unfortunately, I don't see what we crossed out of 49.25. I don't have that readily available.
Okay,
But as far as just sticking with the general, the definitions, here in 49.26, we do go on to define client care conference somewhat. We say the client care conference can be conducted using a variety of types and methods and may include da 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 da. So I do feel like this should be included in the definition,
mhm.
you know, that they should mirror one another. You understand what I mean?
Mhm. So did we take close,
Yeah,
wait,
Because this specifically, this list right here is specifically
to the client care. Conference.
client care conference.
mhm.
No, I agree.
Did we take close client care supervision out?
No, wait, I think that was.
We might have had close supervision elsewhere that under temporary licensure and stuff,
Okay,
but
but
for
it's not in this.
usual OT-OTA relationship, we switched to general supervision.
Okay.
So I'm just gonna copy this. And then I'm gonna go back to the definitions document.
So are you removing it from here or are you putting it both?
I was gonna leave it in both.
I'm sorry, I'm about to sneeze and it will not count. Okay.
Obviously, this might have to change a little bit, except when such meeting may be undertaken by phone or other means of telecommunication. Just need to fix the grammar here. I don't know, does that do it? Y'all seeing the definitions now?
Yeah,
Okay,
okay. Yeah, we can fix the spacing and everything. Okay. But see that if you go back to the document, then it talks about like the frequency methods and everything. I don't think we need to put that on there, do you?
no, because that's moving away from the client care conference.
Well, it's saying how frequent and it says the specific frequency, methods and content. I know,
That's of supervision, that's of the definition for general supervision, so this is the only thing for the definition of client care conference.
Right, thank you. Okay.
It gets squirrely.
The next one is close client care supervision. Do we keep that?
We've got close or direct supervision somewhere in our document. I
Yeah,
don't remember.
We do. It's in, yeah, it's under temporary license, of course.
Yeah, it's under yeah, I knew that had okay, temporary. Mhm.
Yeah,
Do
okay.
we call it close or did we call it direct? You looking at it?
Said on-premise closed supervision of an instruction to the temporary license holder shall provide such on-premise closed supervision of an instruction to the temporary license. And then we
Okay.
also mentioned like an on-premise direction and immediate supervision. So I added all those under terms because we were kind of all over the place with wording.
Well, don't we want the close to be the immediate? Like, should that be one thing?
Well, we have like one that says like on-premise direction and immediate supervision, like on-premise, but that's like for temporary license.
So when else do we mention it? Because to me, on premise used to mean something else other than immediate. Like direct was immediate. And on premise just meant that they're on the site, but they're maybe not watching them directly.
Right.
But is it just the temporary permit part that we talk about?
Yeah, that for that. And then I'm looking up,
And so this close client care supervision no longer is relevant to the occupational therapy assistant. Close client care supervision is now on-premise, face-to-face observation of a temporarily permitted occupational therapy practitioner. Right?
And right. So there aren't any close supervision requirements for any level of fully licensed OTA?
No, we took all that out.
well, it can be, but it's determined by the OT and the OTA. So like, we're leaving it at the discretion of the OT to determine the level of supervision.
Okay.
Based on complexity and things like that.
Right, based on, you know, their experience, the client.
So maybe we don't even have to have who's getting this in this definition for close client care supervision. Maybe it's just on premise, face to face observation of occupational therapy practice.
And something about being able to provide immediate feedback. I know that
Okay.
because that was a big part of it, because you could be across the room treating someone else and still be able to see them. But if you're not right there being able to provide immediate feedback, that's a little bit different. I mean, if that's what we want it to say, unless we don't want it to be that direct.
Well, for the temporarily permitted people, we do still have some percentages of time that the person has to be
Okay,
face to face observed. So I like adding on-premise, y'all, because otherwise these days people will try to do close client care supervision over FaceTime or Zoom.
Yeah,
I like on-premise.
so okay. Y'all might have already said this, but if they determine that a fully licensed OTA does need supervision because of all of those other factors, we're not monitoring how they do that supervision at all, whether it's teleconference or anything, right? Or on premise.
well, we define,
We
Like-
divide the conference, but like if they say, you know what, this OTA has never worked with the neuro and she needs or he needs direct supervision or on premise or anything, that's up to them on how they do that, right?
right, we list out what it is, and if they choose it, the only time we say that direct supervision is required is supervision of unlicensed personnel and volunteers
Okay.
that I can remember.
Ingrid,
Hmm.
excuse me, is close client care supervision envisioned to ever be by telemedicine?
I don't,
That's what
Telehealth,
I
I
would
should
like
say.
to add.
And the other thing is, whenever I would urge you, you talked about Zoom and FaceTime, anytime they're using any of those kind of technologies, if we're putting the definitions in, we need to clearly state that that has to be a HIPAA compliant system. And Zoom is not HIPAA compliant and FaceTime is not HIPAA compliant.
We have that mentioned in another place about that, but not there.
But again, I need to understand if close client care supervision is envisioned to be able to be done by telehealth.
I mean, I don't think so,
No,
especially
it's on premise.
it's on
Okay.
premise.
All right, good. I just want to be sure because we get more, especially when the compact comes about, you'll have OTs that want to supervise AOTs or patient care from, North Dakota and Louisiana, and we got to make sure these rules are clear to address that.
Yes, because that's gonna come under this general supervision and the regular client care conference. So that though there will be some ability to supervise CODAs using technology, but close client care supervision, as we have it, is for temporarily permitted practitioners. So those we're saying we want this to be on premise.
Gotcha. Okay, I'm very comfortable with that as long as you keep it that way.
Yeah,
And I think the board will be comfortable with it too, quite frankly.
okay.
Do we need the rest of this definition about verbal discussion of the client goals?
I don't think we can put a timely fashion because that's too subjective.
Okay, so on-premise face-to-face observations of OT practice with the ability to provide immediate feedback on client goals, individual program plan, and other matters.
Yeah, just put like feedback regarding client goal right there.
These
Yep.
things. Okay.
Yeah, and then take out the period after feedback. Yep. Cognitive skills, I think we can take out.
Yep.
Community services, programs, resources, coordination. Consultation we may need, right?
I think we ought to keep it until we find out for sure whether we use the word somewhere.
I think we do. Yes, therapists shall recommend additional consultations or refer clients to appropriate resources. We do. It's under referral. We need it. Context.
Both context and coping skills feels like we don't need them.
Yeah. I don't know that we need documents either. We talk about documentation, but not specifically document.
And we don't need interaction skills. Now, early intervention setting is defined because before we had a lot of separate rules regarding CODA supervision based on setting. I believe we removed that.
We did. The only place it's mentioned is in the definition.
So if it's the only mention here now, we should probably take it out.
Yeah, and we put a note when we originally did this, like probably a year ago, this is referred to later, but other settings are not. We should take this out.
Education. This is an interesting definition.
I think that was more about educating like a client on like
a treatment intervention.
safety, right? Like things like that. But I don't know that we need it.
Do we still, because this is where the whole can of worms comes about, an OT can provide education without a referral. So I mean, I think if that's still the case, that you need the referral for school-based, then I think if we still use the word education, I mean, I think it is important to have it there.
But that kind of talks about like education as part of treatment.
Right,
So
and it's specifying that it can't be confused with school-based therapy. Those are not synonymous
so we
terms.
mentioned educationally relevant needs of the students. That's like the school system. Then we say like as part of the evaluation, we get education.
Mhm.
And other than that, it's all the rest of the stuff is about continuing education. So if you think we need to keep it to make it separate from.
I think we ought to take it out. I mean, because for the school-based setting piece, didn't we wind up clarifying that you don't need a referral?
Yeah, but we talked about that.
So this is sort of like, why do we need a definition for this one particular intervention? Where we're taking out other intervention definitions. We took out coping skills and
I think the purpose is that there's not another meaning for ADLs which could be utilized later in a different way. The word education, carries with it different definitions. So education as defined by, the type of intervention that's provided by occupational therapists to clients or to patients, or education as is like a setting or a means, or continuing like I think the reason that education itself needs to be defined in multiple ways is because of the multiple ways it's used, not just as a noun, but as a verb or as like in other ways. And because it is also a specific source of, like, it's almost its own unique thing that is also kind of demanding these like different different setting requirements, like how we had talked previously about like being able to like need a doctor's prescription for it or not. And so I think like because it is so specific and different, I think it's okay that if we have that. I think it's okay and also kind of needed that we put things like that, we specify what we're talking about when we say the word education.
So just for reference, the word education is used under the definition of occupational therapy. So it says interventions to support occupation, including but not limited to physical agent modalities, education and training. So I think that's coming up because remember I asked whether physical agent modalities was in it. We repeated
But
it.
we missed it.
The next well, no, it's in the next definition. It's duplicated.
Okay.
Right. Is it like the education that we provide? Or I understand it in the context of that sentence, but inherently, is it like when you say education, is it the education that we provide, or is it
Yes.
the education that we undergo, or is it the setting in which we practice? I think that's the three main ways that I see it differently.
So are we leaving this does not include school-based practice? To me, that just muddies this up more. If what we're trying to do is define education here as an intervention technique that OTs use, then to me, this second piece about school-based therapy, just, I don't even understand why
Right.
that.
Yeah, I think you don't need that extra part. I
Right.
think education as defined, in that way.
Yeah.
I think it's okay. I'm just saying that that's the three ways that I see the word education being used, but it's not specified that education is used as, I'm just trying to play devil's advocate here. I understand what we all mean, but I'm just saying that that could potentially be a hang up when we meant it this way to be used this way, but we didn't state it that it was in that. I don't know.
Well, let's keep going. We'll all.
We're almost out of time, and I think we need to leave it like that for now because we'll talk about it possibly when we get to the definition of OT because it's in there. And we'll see if it's related. So Ingrid, if you can kind of like maybe highlight that or mark that is our stopping point, so we'll know exactly where we were. And then can we vote? We're going to vote on the changes that we've made so far. So I don't know exactly.
That would be removing early intervention, didactic interaction, documents.
I was just going to make a general motion about like to this section,
Okay.
4901, and also up above. What was that section? Keep scrolling. Yeah, 1901. A motion that we accept the changes made thus far to section 1901 and 4901 regarding definitions.
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
I,
I
Okay, so we will, on the agenda next time will be the definitions and then the temporary license part. And in the meantime, I'll take the changes that Ingrid and that we did today and put it into the condensed version, but we're also going to keep the lengthy version because we need that too to see what we've taken out and what we've done. So we have the next meeting on November 17th, and early discussions when we first came on were regarding do we want a meeting for December to finish out the year. Dr. Van offered that December 1st could work because of if we need to get anything on the agenda, which I'm not sure that we will actually. The agenda closes November 27th for the board agenda, or we could So if y'all want to look at the 1st or other dates in December.
The first works for me.
It works for me as
And I
well.
think we definitely do need to pencil one in with the goal of finishing this within Darby and I's lifetime.
Thank you. Yeah, I can do the 1st or the 15th. I know the 15th kind of gets close to the holidays, but I can make the 1st work if everybody else can.
I vote for the 1st.
Okay. The 8th, I don't know if y'all know, the AOTA Pediatric Conference is actually in New Orleans, so the 8th didn't work, but okay, so we're gonna put on our thing. Olivia, Dr. Van, y'all mark down that we're gonna meet on December 1st.
We'll make sure you get scheduled. You'll probably get your invite before you know it.
Oh, I
Knowing how
know.
efficient
He's on it.
Olivia is.
He's on it. Her and Jacinta, like I need to clone them.
I think we're gonna be finished next month and not even needed though.
I would love that.
That would be
Amy.
awesome.
You have no idea how much I'm trying to work behind the scenes to get all this done.
I know how much y'all are.
We do
Thank
know,
you.
Darby.
Thank you.
We're trying like that. Brenda.
Darby, I brag on you all the time to the other committees.
Look,
Nobody
we have-
works as hard as you all do. Trust me.
This committee is amazing. Like you say the word and somebody's like already researching it on the side. Like I cannot brag enough about everyone on this committee playing a major part of being able to do this. Like absolutely, like so good. So with that being said, know how much y'all are all appreciated. We're gonna keep at it. And our next meeting is scheduled for November 17th. And Dr. Van, before we officially adjourn, can you please check to make sure there's no public comment?
There are no public comments, ma'am.
Okay, does anyone else have any suggestions, wishes? Anything? Thanks again to Patricia and everyone from the board who attends because y'all make it so much easier. So helpful.
Thank
All right,
y'all. Appreciate all your hard work.
Thank you.
Bye,
Everyone have a
everybody.
good Friday.
Bye-bye.
We will officially
Bye.
adjourn at 12:59.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Thank you.